Hello there, people of the internet. This is a video topic that is going to have some speculation to it, only because I was not able to find any real significant direct answers to the questions that I had. So I'm making this video because I couldn't find any answers for this question. So this is me kind of answering the question in case anyone else has the same kind of question that I did. Why is the 30 round capacity magazine standard for basically all of your modern intermediate caliber firing rifles? So there's a couple of things that we have to take into consideration from this. First off, one of the reasons why the 30 round magazine is standard is just because that seems to be the Goldilocks area for how much ammunition you can fit inside of a magazine for a rifle like this, with the intended purposes that this particular rifle or these rifle platforms are going to be performing without hindering reliability or performance of the shooter, especially in prone positions. So whenever the 30 round capacity intermediate cartridge firing rifle was becoming a thing, most countries were using old school rifles like what we see right here that had between 5 and 10 round magazine capacities. One of the big things that countries were looking at was being able to go prone with their rifles without their magazines getting in the way. It was apparently a really big deal back then. That's why, 10 round capacity was considered like your higher capacity magazine for rifles of that time period, because most countries didn't want a magazine jutting out the bottom of the rifle so they could go prone. Well, during the time periods where you were using full-powered bolt-action rifles that had a limited magazine capacity, shot placement and accuracy was far more important than volume of fire, like what we have with the intermediate rifles. One of the big things about volume of fire is it oftentimes keeps your enemies' heads down and makes them a lot, well, essentially it is what would be considered suppressive fire, and it is much easier to do with more ammunition inside of your firearm than less ammunition inside of, say, a manually operated firearm. There are other firearms out there like the M1 Garand that was on the battlefield, or the SKS, that did fall into that category of 10 rounds or less. The SKS more or less played off of a lot of traditions. It's kind of like in the Goldilocks era, from transitioning to battle rifles to the fighting rifles that we know nowadays. It is like an old school version of a battle rifle with new school adaptations to it because it's in an intermediate cartridge. So these new firearms focus more on volume of fire rather than pinpoint precision like the bolt-action rifles did back in the day. A lot of your bolt-action rifles were actually varied around machine guns, and those machine guns would utilize the volume of fire aspects of warfare and battle and whatnot versus the individual soldiers themselves with their bolt-action rifles. So now we're moving on to sending more lead downrange, and the lead is less powerful, but it's powerful enough to handle things at distances that most things would end up needing to be handled, and that's kind of where we're at today with the intermediate caliber firing rifle. Originally, whenever the AK-47 was adopted, it was intended to replace both rifles when need be and submachine guns when need be, and the 30 caliber, or not, well, I guess 30 caliber as well, the 30 round count 7.62 by 39 inside of the magazine seemed to be the good Goldilocks area for being able to have a submachine gun that could also serve as a rifle, which is what the Russians were originally intending. Originally, whenever the AR platform was adopted by U.S. military service, it actually had a 20-round magazine, which later was increased to a 30-round magazine. There is some speculation because the M16 ended up going against the AK-47, which held more ammunition. That's one of the things that kind of leads me to believe that the AK may have inspired the standard capacity magazine for being 30 rounds on the AR platform in military service. I know a lot of people will speculate that these right here do make going prone more difficult, but this is really not that much of an issue whenever it comes to going prone. Anyone who's ever gone prone with an AR platform knows it's really not that hard with a standard capacity magazine. However, it is easier with a 20 round capacity magazine. I will go ahead and say that right now just from experience. The 20 rounders, they just have less. Do I have a 20 rounder around here to show off? I do not. They just have less volume to them. They are shorter in the gun. They kind of sit flush with the pistol grip right there. And it's easier to go prone and not catch on things, etc., etc. However, you also have to focus on manufacturing more magazines for the same amount of ammunition. You also have to focus on how that person is going to carry those extra magazines for the same amount of ammunition. Like, it just makes more sense to carry more ammunition inside of a magazine versus less, especially whenever the increase in size is not that much of a hindrance. I still think that they got the 30-round capacity from influence from the AK-47 with its original 30-round capacity magazine. I do know that there were plenty of experimentations with higher and even 25-round capacity magazines, or higher than 30, like 35 or 40, or even beyond that capacity magazines. However, those higher capacity magazines, just because of spring tension and length of the magazine, etc., they actually tend to be less reliable than the standard capacity 30. For the AR platform, it seems that the 30-rounder is just the good Goldilocks area for having as much ammunition as possible without sacrificing reliability and without sacrificing any real significant hindrance on the shooter. So that's kind of where my research has led me. I know that, well, like I said, back in the day, pinpoint precision was much more of a needed thing because of the firearms that were being utilized during the time period where you had 5 shots in a bolt-action rifle, and going prone was a way more essential thing than something like one of these rifles where you can just hose down the area and get somebody's head down. Suppressive fire is definitely far more effective from a squad of guys with ARs versus a squad of guys with bolt-action rifles. The AK was always made and designed with that 30-round magazine, I'm assuming because they wanted enough ammunition for it to serve as a submachine gun if necessary, but also have the ammunition be powerful enough, which 7.62 x 39 definitely is, powerful enough for distances that combat was typically going to be taking place at within 400 yards, which absolutely is where most combat takes place at. And I'm fairly certain that the AR followed suit to that 30-round magazine just because it kind of falls into the same role. Intermediate cartridge can serve as a sort of submachine gun if necessary, or it could serve as the full powered rifle that is needed to take long, accurate shots if necessary. So that 30-round magazine just seems to be that Goldilocks area, and that's kind of my conclusion for where I've come for this. I don't really have much else to say. I'm sure somebody's going to add some more stuff into the comments down below, in which case we will have more of an answer as to why the 30-round magazine has just become the standard capacity. There are, like, modern-made battle rifles out there that have a 20-round magazine. That is like the standard capacity for your higher caliber firearms. Well, I don't want to say higher caliber, higher powered firearms, like full powered rifles and whatnot. Because I guess 30 caliber, the AK is also a 30 caliber. So if you're using something like 7.62 NATO or something like that, odds are your magazine is going to be 20 rounds, and a lot of that has to do with the size of the ammunition. 7.62 NATO is significantly larger than something like 223. So my 2 cents on that, yeah, the 30-round mag for intermediate cartridges, seems like all your intermediate cartridge rifles out there are chambered in 30-round magazines, unless you get something that is not a standard. Let me know what you guys think down below. That's just kind of what I've been able to piece together with the research that I've done, and I wanted to share it with you guys because I was not able to find any information on it. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you all in the next episode.
since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. Poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.